بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تفضل.
It is recommended for the first etiquette. It is recommended for the one entering bathroom to say, "In the name of Allah, O Allah, I seek refuge in you from the male and female devils." This is based on the hadith from Ali Razulullah Ta'ala, who said that the Prophet ﷺ said, "The barrier between the eyes of the jinn and the private parts of humans, when one of them enters the place to relieve oneself, is by saying, 'In the name of Allah.'" Additionally, Anas Razulullah Ta'ala stated, when the Prophet ﷺ would enter the place to relieve himself, he would say, "O Allah, I seek refuge in you from the male and female devils."
Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. The first etiquette that the author talks about is what to say. He says, when entering. That means before you enter. So saying the Bismillah is before you enter the toilet. So saying Bismillah, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuth wal-khabath. The dua is to be said in Arabic to get the full impact. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuth wal-khabath, or min al-khubthi wal-khabath. Both is to be correct. Translation could be, that is, I seek refuge in Allah, in the name of Allah, of course. I seek refuge in Allah from the male and female shayateen, or from the nasty things. Both is to be correct translation. Where did we take this from? From two hadiths. One, when the Prophet ﷺ said, "Satrun ma bayna a'yun jinn wa awrat al-bani Adam," that is the barrier between the eyes of the jinn, whether it's a male or a female, they look at you, and between the private parts that you're not supposed to disclose or show to any except to your mahram or your husband or your wife, is saying Bismillah. So you see, as soon as you take off your clothes, you say Bismillah, the jinn will not be able to look at you. And the jinn, male or female, they have got powers to possess you. They've got power as well to affect you. And also that we're not supposed to show our awrat to them. So even if you are in a locked room, you don't know if there's a jinn there or not. Shaitan is there or not. So as soon as you take off your clothes, you say Bismillah. Straight away, there will be a barrier, curtain. So that's the first hadith gives us, to say Bismillah whenever we take off our clothes. As Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal-khabath, as the Prophet ﷺ, when he had entered the area where he defecates and relieves himself, which is al-hushush. Inna hadhihi al-hushush muhtadira. Hushush is a collection of palm trees where they get together where the person can have privacy. So whenever he goes there, he would say, "Oh Lord, I seek refuge in you from the khubuth wal-khabath, or al-khubth wal-khabath." Second etiquette.
The second etiquette, upon leaving the place, it is recommended to say, "I seek your forgiveness." Now, Aisha Raziyallahu Ta'ala anha said, when the Prophet ﷺ would leave from the place of relieving oneself, he would say, "I seek your forgiveness."
Right, غفرانك. So I seek your forgiveness, I seek your forgiveness. Forwards. In one Arabic, غفرانك. That's it. Much easier. غفرانك. So come out the toilet, say غفرانك. So go inside, Bismillah, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal-khabath. Come out, I say غفرانك. غفرانك means a seek forgiveness from you. And Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah saying regarding the interpretation of this, just like, "Oh Lord, you have made me to relieve my belly, my stomach, my pain, as I'm bowling and whatever. Just, oh Lord, as well, I seek refuge. I seek your forgiveness that needs to set me sort of relax from my sins." So just like I'm relaxing my body, oh Lord, make me relax as well from my what? From my sins. So just like you have unloaded your physical stuff, and now you're relaxed and relieved, you want as well to unload your sins. Okay? Want to unload them. Don't want to load them, unload them. So you seek refuge or seek forgiveness from Allah. Ufranak. This is what Ibn Qayyim had said in Ighathat al-Lahfan. 3.
Number 3, it is also recommended to enter the place first with one's left foot and to step out first with one's one's right foot. This is in keeping with the principle of beginning noble things with the right and non-noble left. It is also recommended enter the place first with one's left foot and to step out first with one's right foot. This is in keeping with the principle of beginning noble things with the right and non-noble acts with the left, for which there is a general evidence.
Okay, I used to ask you to get yourself closer to the microphone, barakallah fiik, because really not audible to them, maybe upstairs. Okay, right here, so the third etiquette is to enter the place where you're going to relieve yourself with your left and to come out with the right. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he likes to have the right always for the honorable and the left for the dishonorable. So once, for example, he wants to clean his urine or clean the excrement, he would use his left, and he would use right to pour onto his hand. So his left is for cleaning, for something which is not honorable. That's why when we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has got two hands and both of them are yameen, right. What do you mean right here? You think it's right, you mean both hands on one side? No, it means both are honorable. When we say we got right and left, okay, right and left, it's two hands, but left is used for the human being for dishonorable things, something which is to do with removing the excrements and all of that. But Allah's got two hands. It doesn't mean that they are on one side. It means they've got two hands, but both of them are what? Honorable. There's no such thing on one hand for honorable and one hand for dishonorable. The proof in general is for entering the toilet with the left can be taken up from the hadith of Aisha, number one, where the Prophet ﷺ, she said, he used to like his right into his tarajjul, when he combs his hair, also in his tana'um, when he puts his shoes. So he starts with the right side when he combs, and when he starts with the left foot when he wants to put his shoes on, and, and in his purification, so he was using his right. And وَفِي شَأْنِهِ كُلِّهِ, and everything to do with all his affairs, he would like to use the right side. Also, Aisha radiallahu anha, she said regarding the khala, relieving oneself, the Prophet of Allah ﷺ he used to use the left for removal, as I said, the excrement, the cleaning the urine. So if you are, for example, cleaning your private part, you use the left. So you put with the water, with the right, use the left, whether it is the front or the back, use the left, don't use the right. Prophet ﷺ even prohibited for the person to use his right. He said not to use his right to the private part, and that's why Uthman said, embrace Islam. Ma massat yamini dhakari. My right hand never touched my private part. Also, there is a hadith from Anas radiallahu anhu, where he says himself, it is min as-sunnah, it is from the sunnah. And when he says from the sunnah, straight away, the hadith can be elevated, can be upgraded to be from the Prophet, meaning that no companion would say that this is from the Sunnah except that he's speaking from the divine. That means he has a link to the Prophet of Allah. So we call it fi hukm al-marfu'. That means it's got the same rule as if the Prophet of Allah had said it. No companion can say it's from the Sunnah, which is religion. Min as-Sunnah, this is from the Sunnah, that is to enter the masjid with the right foot and come out of the masjid with the what? With the left foot. So when you come in the masjid, you come with the right first. And when you come out of the masjid, come out with the left. Try to do and apply the sunnah, inshallah, when you come out of the masjid. From that narration of Anas, scholarly said, okay, so the masjid is a place of worship. And the toilet is a place of what? Shayateen. So you go to the opposite. So when you enter the toilet, you enter the what? With the opposite of the masjid, with the left. Come out of the toilet with the opposite, which you came out from the masjid. You came out of the masjid with the left, came out from the toilet with the right. You enter the masjid with the right, you enter the toilet with the left. That's how it is. So we've got now 3 proofs for that, why we say that it is better. This is from the sunnah, it's the etiquette to enter the toilet with the left, come out of it with the right. Number 4.
Number 4, in open spaces such as the desert, it is recommended to go such a distance that one is not seen. Jabir Rasulullah Ta'ala said, we went with the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam on a journey, and whenever he wished to relieve himself, he would go away until he could not be seen.
Right. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he wants to go to relieve himself. He will go as far as he can so he can't be seen. Now, these days we don't use that because we walk your toilets. But here, look, Jabir Abdullah said, we have left with the Prophet of Allah in a journey, and the Prophet of Allah, he would not go to defecate until he would go, so nobody can see him, nobody can hear him, nobody could smell him. And from this, I would like to as well to take this opportunity to tell those masajid, or building masajid and making toilets, it's not correct to adopt the Western style and have a space from the top, space from the bottom. People can see each other even with the reflection of the water. People can hear each other. This is actually reminding us what the people of Lut used to do in their clubs. They used to pass wind in front of each other, no problem. So what's the difference between us and them? That we're having a toilet next to the toilet, and any person can just, it's just a tiny sound that can be audible to everybody. So this is where the Prophet of Allah, he is the Prophet of Allah, whom his urine is different from ours. Excrement is different from ours. His sweat is different from ours. Yet he goes as far as he can so that nobody can hear him, nobody can smell him, nobody can see him. So in terms of seeing, yes, maybe, well, some of the toilets are okay, but some of them are really so high from the bottom. Okay, so you could see that there's water on the ground. You can see the reflection of somebody inside because it's close to you. Some of them, even when they sit, their shoes are sticking out to the other toilet. That's not really correct. So it's supposed to be, a box. Each one has got his own box, soundproof, smell-proof. Everything like this has to be. But we are adapting the Western system. That's what it is. And we are really lowering our guard bit by bit. Especially we've got urinals outside now these days. Anybody can just go to the urinals and doesn't care about looking at other people. We should be careful. That's why the Muslim, when he comes to any place, he would rather go to the disabled toilet. True or not? To the disabled toilet. Okay? And you go to the disabled toilet, and when you want to come out, you're just pretending that you're limping because you disabled yourself. It's not because you want to use the disabled, it's because of the privacy it gives you. It gives you privacy that nobody can hear you, nobody can see you, nobody can smell you. So that's why I just said to every person who's in charge of any masjid, want to build a masjid, please do not adopt the Western system in toilets. And then make the people adapt, no problem. So you can pass wind with bangs and all of that, people, no problem. No, I would be shy to do that. And the shyness has to be, element of shyness is there. I don't want to be able, somebody to hear me when I'm, obnoxious noises there. I don't want that to take place. So the Prophet of Allah would go as far as he can. Yet he's on a journey, that means not really next to houses, but he would go as far as he can from the people. And that's how we should be. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, this is from the haya, ya akhwan, from the haya. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he said, Wallahi, I would not take off my clothes for defecation unless, really I want to do it. So I will not take off before and just, before I do it. So he's even shy to take off his clothes for defecation. That's not the modesty.
It's also recommended that one not raise one's clothing until one is close to the ground. Ibn Umar said when the Prophet ﷺ wished to relieve himself, he would not raise his garment until he was close to the ground.
And this is also only applicable if you are defecating outside where people can see. But inside the toilet, it doesn't matter whether they take it off, where you're close to the toilet or not. So you can take it off well before you sit down in the toilet because the door is locked. So make sure the door is closed. So make sure that you always protect your private parts, not to be seen except by the ones who are allowed to see it, like the wife, husband, or the doctors if needed. But other than that, always make sure your private parts are not to be seen. So the Prophet ﷺ, he would not go and defecate, would not go and lift up his clothes until he goes so close to the ground, and then he will take off. Now, tell them.
It's not allowed to face or have one's back to a Qibla, either while in the desert or in a building. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu anhu narrated the Prophet ﷺ said, if you go to relieve yourselves, do not face or put your back to the Qibla when urinating or defecating. Instead, face the east or the west. Abu Ayyub who stated, when we came to Asham, we found the bathroom within the building facing the Qibla, so we would turn ourselves away and ask Allah for forgiveness.
Right, this is an important point as well. Not to turn your face when you defecate or urinate towards the Qibla, nor you put your back towards the Qibla when you defecate or urinate. And then he used the hadith of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, where the Prophet of Allah, he said in his words, do not, when you come to the ra'id, urination, defecation, do not face the Qibla, nor put your back towards the Qibla, but go to the east and the west. Here, east and the west is in relation to the Medina. Okay? So if you are in India, you can't go to the east and the west. Because east and the west means you are facing the Qibla, or either you're back to the Qibla. Because India is on the eastern side of Al-Kaaba. And if you are in Morocco, you can't go east and west as well. Because in Morocco, either you're going to be facing the Qibla, east or west, you're going to be putting it back towards the Qibla. So you're going to go to the north or the south. So this hadith is what? Sharriqu wa gharribu, because the Prophet of Allah was in Medina. And the Medina lies to the north of the Kaaba. So if you go to the east and the west, you're not going to go to the side of the Kaaba, which is north and south. In this country, we know that is the Qibla is southeast, or you could say southeast, double southeast. So if you saw this is east and this is south. In the middle, southeast. It's further to the south again. So it's southeast. Okay, that's the Qibla. So you go to anything to do with east, west. You could go south, north, but you couldn't go the diagonal one. You can't go because you will be facing the Qibla or you're back towards the Qibla. Now, the companions used to go to Bilad Sham, and some of those stories already had been built towards the Kaaba, facing the Kaaba, or they're back towards the Kaaba. Now, this is a good thing to learn from, because we do have toilets here which are already being made, and they could be what? Facing the Qibla. In our countries, we make sure that our toilets are built in such a way that the person will not face the Qibla, nor he will put his back to the Qibla. But let's say that in that country or in this country, your toilet is towards the Qibla. If you've got money to go and change it, it's up to you, but you don't have to as long as you want. Will you sit on it? You sit in a way that you're not facing, nor you're back towards the Qibla. Okay? So the Qibla is this way, so I'll go just tilt it this way, about 20 degrees, you will be away from the Qibla. It's better to be 90 degrees, so you don't really face the whole direction. The direction means 90 degrees. So all of that, I don't want to face it. Okay? And all of that, I don't want to face it. So the person needs to make sure that when he sits and defecates, he does not face the Qibla, nor he turns back to the Qibla. This is something that you need to learn. You might come across, some of the Fiqh says, it is makruh. Or he would say to you, it is only if you are outside, you don't face the Qibla, nor you turn your back to the Qibla. But inside the building, inside the toilet, doesn't matter. This is based upon an understanding of a narration. I want to tackle it, and I want to tackle it properly in a way maybe it hasn't been tackled before, like in this way, which is the Athar of Abdullah ibn Umar. He said, رَقِيتُ يَوْمًا عَلَى بَيْتِ حَفْصَةٍ. One day I climbed up on the top of the house of Hafsa. Hafsa's sister, and Hafsa happens to be the wife of the Prophet. Then he said, I saw the Prophet ﷺ facing Bilad Sham. Bilad Sham is to the north of Medina. So if you face Sham, your back will be towards the Kaaba. I saw the Prophet of Allah relieving himself, facing Bilad Sham, Syria, and Jordan, all that area. And he's back towards the Qibla. So from this athar, some of the scholars, they said, it is disliked to face the Qibla. It's not really prohibited, it's not haram. Or they said it's only applicable if you are in an open space, but inside the building is no problem because the Prophet of Allah did that. And that's not correct understanding at all. First of all, tackle it one by one. First point, that the Prophet of Allah, when he said the hadith of Ayyub al-Ansari, That is, when you defecate, relieve yourself, don't face the Qibla, no, you put your back to Qibla. And that's same to everyone, to all the Ummah. Whereas the action of the Prophet of Allah, it could be for a certain reason. Like for example, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he forbade us from making wisal, to link the day with the day in fasting. But the Prophet of Allah did the wisal. So we don't say wisal is makruh. No. We say it's not allowed to make wisal, to link the day in fasting. You have to eat something in the middle, whether it is as early as the breakfast, which is at the sunset, or as the latest, which is the dawn, before the dawn. You have to eat something. But the Prophet did it. He did it for a reason, because he himself, the Prophet said that because of Allah Azza wa Jalla, he gives him food and drink, even though you don't see it. So he's got the food and drink. His dhikr become food and drink. But the people, the normal people, can't do that. So the Prophet, when he does something which is not synchronizing with what he says, it has to be for a reason. So that's number one. We say that the Prophet of Allah's saying takes precedence over his action. That's number one. We don't say his action would belittle the command of the words. No, the precedence goes to the same, and that's a principle. We've learned it, because the addressing of the people with the words is not like when a certain scene that taken place. The Prophet did something which is other than what he had said. Number two, al-hadiru muqaddamu ala al-munyah. Second point is that always when you have something prohibiting, it will take precedence over something which will make it allowed. Because in Islam, everything was allowed before Islam, and Islam came to what? Prohibit things. If it's the other way around, the Prophet of Allah would straight away point that out. So for example, the Prophet ﷺ prohibited things which were allowed before in the Jahiliyyah. For example, it was allowed for the three people, when they're together, two people would converse with conversation, and the exception of the third one. That's allowed. Islam came, no, it's not allowed, because it will bring what? Some sort of doubt in the other minds of the person that they're talking about me. So this, but if it is the other way around, Prophet Allah will show it. Like for example, visiting the grave. Prophet of Allah said, verily, I prohibit you from visiting the grave. Okay? But now I'm saying you to go and visit the grave, because it will remind you of what? Of the akhirah. So visiting the graves at the beginning, before Islam, it was what? Allowed. Islam came, prohibited that. But later on, Prophet of Allah encouraged that. Again, before Islam, visiting the grave is not allowed. Why? Because, so it's allowed. When Islam came, made it prohibited. Why? Because people's mind lingering to the deceased, and the deceased has got an effect on his life. So Islam wanted to keep him away from worshipping the grave. So prohibited at the beginning. But when Islam became so stronger in the hearts of the companions, Prophet of Allah, he said, I did prohibit you from visiting the grave. So he made it sure now. I did prohibit you from visiting the grave, but now visit the graves, because it will remind you of the death. It reminds you of the akhirah, the hereafter. Third point, which is as well as important. Abdullah ibn Umar, when he climbed up on top of the roof, okay, he climbed up on the top of the roof. Did the Prophet know about that? No, he didn't know that. Did he intentionally went up? Of course he didn't. He doesn't want to look at that Prophet of Allah defecating and urinating. He just went up to the top, and suddenly he saw the Prophet of Allah. Remember, there was no roofs on the house. There's no roofs. You could see a roof, but there's a roof which is what? You could see through it. So when he saw the Prophet of Allah, he climbed up and he saw the Prophet of Allah inside, and he could see urinating towards the Shulad Sham, his back to the Qibla. So Prophet of Allah doesn't know. Abdullah ibn Umar did not intentionally go up to go and see. So this is an action, or so we could say an incident, which can be isolated. It's not going to affect the hadith of the Prophet of Allah. He said to the whole ummah. Not the whole ummah saw the Prophet of Allah did that. It's only one person. And it's left for him. And the Prophet of Allah didn't know that he had seen him as well. And he hasn't been informed by revelation that he had seen it as well. Again, fourth point. We know that when we are in the masjid, we face the Qibla. It's true or not? As respect for the Kaaba. Yes? And also outside the masjid, and wherever you are, in the open space, you as well face the Qibla. True or not? So facing the Qibla, it is not just limited to the person outside, because there's nothing between him and the Qibla. Okay? But it's actually also inside, we have to face the Qibla. Sixth or fifth point. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us not to spit towards the Qibla. Now, spitting towards the Qibla is prohibited in both. All the scholars said, whether you are inside the building or what? Outside the building. Which is worse? To urinate towards the Qibla, defecate towards the Qibla, or spitting towards the Qibla? Which one is worse? Yeah, tell me. You should know. Which one is worse in your mind? No, think. Don't say think. Urinating, of course, you know. Very simple. To urinate is worse than spitting. So if urinating is worse, yet we say it's allowed if you are inside the toilet, but it's not allowed if you're in the open space. But while spitting, which is less, it's not allowed whether you're outside or inside. It doesn't make sense, does it? You understand what I'm saying? You're following me? I'm saying because there's a fiqh being adopted. It's not just a fiqh, it's an Hanbali fiqh, which say that it is okay to defecate inside the building, towards the Qibla or back towards the Qibla, but in the open spaces, that's not allowed. Finally, akhwana, who he says it is allowed to defecate or urinate inside, but not outside. I would say to him, outside, subhanallah. Do you think that if you are in the open space, you have a space all the way to the Kaaba? We're going to have somehow buildings and fences and mountains, and there's no such thing that the Qibla is there and there is open space between you. So definitely, this is like a big house. It's like urinating in a small house, which is, you said, it's allowed, but I said this is a big house. So there's no such thing to differentiate between defecating outside or defecating inside. Both are to be prohibited. We have to respect the Qibla, regardless where we are. But after all of this,
it's forbidden to relieve oneself in the paths of the people or in the places of shame. Abu Hurairah, who narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, avoid the acts causing cursing. They asked, what are the acts causing cursing, O Messenger of Allah? He replied, it is the one who relieves himself in the paths of the people and their places of shame.
Okay, it's the two cursing, because the la'inain, it's not the cursing here, it's la'inain, the two cursing here. And he had mentioned two, which are, that means the places will, or the thing that will invoke curse from the people on you. And that is to defecate on the path of the people. So the people go on this path or this road, and then they find a big, massive thing in front. They will say, curse him, Allah curse him. Or, for example, the person wants to go to a tree, shade himself in the tree. He found a big thing as well there. Mouth smell, curse him. These bad people curse. That's why the Prophet said avoid it. But there is another hadith which is avoid the three cursing places. اتقوا الملاعن الثلاث. What are they? Same two here, which is defecating on the path of the people. Second one, which is under the trees. And the third one, which is near the sources of water. So there's a spring of water and you do something there. People want to use this water either to drink from it, or to fetch water from it, or to have, ghusl from it, and you are doing whatever you're doing from their defecation is not allowed. So these three places, you could add one place as well, which is the sources of water. Number 8.
It's disliked to urinate in one's bathing place. Humayd al-Himri said, I met a man who accompanied the Prophet ﷺ like Abu Hurairah accompanied him, and he said, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ prohibited that one should comb our hair daily, or that one should urinate in his bathing place.
Right. So here, the principle here is that it is disliked for the person to urinate where he bathes himself. This is, of course, where the bathing itself hasn't got a drainage. Do you understand that? A drainage. And that's even said by Imam al-Khattabi in his Ma'alim al-Sunnah a long time ago, talking about 700 years ago. He had said that this is to do with a place where you urinate and there is no drainage to filter the water. So if it is in your tub or your shower, and the shower has got what? Drainage. No problem, because it's going through. No problem. So to urinate there is no problem. The problem is that when you have something which is it is closed and then you are urinating in it, or some of the urine goes into it, then there will be waswasa now. Is it clean or not clean? Is it pure or not pure? And that is why another narration there is, فَإِنَّ عَامَّةَ الْوِسْوَاسِ مِنْ, the general wiswas is from it. It's not authentic narration, but the meaning of it is sound. And that's what Imam al-Khattabi had said, that the person, if he urinates in something which is water there, it hasn't got, he urinates in a water where he's having shower in it or having a ghusl in it, and he hasn't got a drainage to take the water and to keep the water clean all the time, then there will be some sort of, if any drop of urine went into it, then basically it will give him the waswasa. Is it clean? Is it not going to be good enough? Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Now,
it's forbidden to urinate in stagnant water.
Just before you go, doctor, the hadith says, Naha Rasulullah, the Prophet forbade that one of us to comb his self or his hair daily. Some people, they don't understand this. What does it mean? I mean, I have to. If it's another hadith, قال إلا غبة, means day after a day. And I have heard a person who's supposed to be a da'i explaining this hadith in a way that this is not the way to explain it. He said, we have to comb our hair one day off, one day on. 24 hours. Do it for 24 hours, you comb your hair. But this is what hadith is translation. Because if you are just go by the literal meaning of the hadith, that's what you're going to end up with. So I would rather, before you sit down and teach the people to learn this hadith, how the scholars have interpreted it. And that is, ghibba means you're not really preoccupied by combing the hair all the time. That's what it means. So it's not you all the time in the mirror. Some of the people, they don't go except in the mirror 24/7. No. It has to go as well spray, make the hair sort of on a certain shape. If it goes this shape, oh my God, it goes to the mirror again. That's the one you're not really being asked to do it. It's not allowed. It is prohibited because you are putting yourself into something which is not supposed to be, taking you away from the proper and the main core of your and target of your life, which is the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it doesn't mean that if I comb my hair today, I have to wait 24 hours tomorrow and then start combing my hair again. It's not like this, the hadith. Even if it means Naha Rasul sallam an taraddud illa ghibba. It doesn't mean like day after day. It means it does not continuously do it. You are preoccupied with it. That's what it means. Now, number 9, sorry.
It's forbidden to urinate in stagnant water. Jabir radiallahu anhu narrated from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu that he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam prohibited urinating in stagnant water. Stagnant
water, like for example, swimming pool. Water does not change. Okay, so it's in a place where the water does not go. So if it is, what about the sea? Okay, even some of the scholars said because sea stagnant water is still, but it's actually sea. And I remember Sheikh Muhammad Musa Nasr, may Allah have mercy upon him. He said, I don't think that if you even in an ocean or a sea, even if you urinate or even excrete, if you're going to pollute the whole ocean, it's not going to be that. No way. Even if you have, so you know what the Ganga River, in India, they do all sorts of things there. But still water clean, you know that. Even with that, yes, it's not as clean, but still they burn bodies in it, they make all sorts of things there in the Ganga water. Because the water is too much, it cannot be polluted by even the huge number of these people who go there into that area. But we're talking about, like, for example, a tank of water or a swimming pool, okay? You're not supposed to urinate there. But if it's running water, it's no problem. Now,
it's permissible to urinate while standing, but do not do so sitting. But to do so sitting is preferred. Yes. It's permissible to urinate while standing, but to do so sitting is preferred.
No.
Hudayfa said, I was with the Prophet ﷺ and he went to the garbage dump of the people and urinated while standing. I moved away and he said, come closer. I came close until I stood behind him, and he then made ablution and wiped over his slippers. We said that sitting is preferred because that was the Prophet ﷺ's most common practice. In fact, Aisha radiallahu anha even said, if someone tells you that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ urinated while standing, do not believe him. He would only urinate while sitting. This statement of hers does not negate what Hudayfa said, as she was reported what she had seen while Hudayfa narrated what he saw. It is known that one who affirms something takes precedence over one who negates an act, as the first has some additional knowledge.
Let's understand this. It says it's permissible for the person to urinate standing up. I'm going to add a step as well. من غير كراهة, without a dislike. You could urinate standing up without a dislike. But you could see some of the books that say dislike to urinate standing up. No, من غير كراهة. You could urinate standing up without a dislike. It is okay. Permissible completely. But there's two things we have to bear in mind. Number one is that we are secured from the bouncing back of the urine onto you. So because you stand standing up and the urine goes to a distance, if it hits something, it might bounce so strongly onto you. So you have to make sure that it does not bounce onto you. Urinals are very good because they're slippery and they will not bounce back onto you. But the second thing that we need to bear in mind, that's where urinals now will be taken away, and that is as long as your aura will not be exposed. So two things here. As long as urine does not bounce back. Number two is your aura will not be exposed. No problem. So if urinals are on their own, nobody's there. But urinal, next to a urinal, where a man does it, and next to him another man who could look at it like this, it's not okay. It has to be privacy. So no problem to have a urinal which is in your private toilet, where you could stand up and urinate in it. It's even more comfortable for the people who get older to sit down, to do it while standing up. More convenient to some of the people who are, as long as there's no bouncing back. And of course, as long as you wash yourself. Okay, so I'm going to add this as well. Washing yourself. So you want to make sure that you wash yourself. It's not just to, basically shake it or just put it inside. You have to put water into it or to clean it in the way that we're going to tell you how to clean it in a minute, inshallah. Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, he said, I went to the Prophet and he went to a garbage for some people and started urinating there. And he told Hudayfa to be next to him and put his face away from him so he could cover him, so he urinated. And Aisha, she said, he who tells you that the Prophet of Allah urinated standing up is a liar. She had spoken the truth because she only saw him in the house. She did not see him outside the house. And here there's a principle. We should learn. She said, or the author said, Man ya'lam hujja ala man la ya'lam. Person who knows has precedence over the person who doesn't know. What does that mean? Person came to this masjid. He asked me, what's your name? What's your name? Amar. Amar? Huh? Aman? Aman. Iman. Iman. Yes, Iman. He said to me, is Iman here? I said no. And I'm not lying, because I don't know your name. Then he went to ask the Imam when he left out, was Iman in the class? Say his father asked. He would say, well, he was. Now, I'm truthful, Imam and the other Imam is truthful, but that person who had taken the information, which one will take? Mine was his? His. Why? Because the one he had established the knowledge takes precedence upon the one who negates. I said no. He said what? Yes. Both of us are truthful. Which information should be taken now by the other person? The one who said what? Because he's got extra knowledge. He had seen him, I didn't see him. Or I saw him, but I didn't know his name is Iman. Did you understand that now? So Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, who told you the Prophet of Allah even standing up is a liar? Hudayfa, he said, I've seen the Prophet of Allah urinating standing up into the garbage of some people, which is outside the house. Which one is I will take now? Hudayfa, because both Hudayfa and Aisha are truthful. But Hudayfa got extra knowledge that he had seen the Prophet of Allah urinating standing. So did the Prophet of Allah urinate standing up? Which one should I take, Hudayfa or Aisha? Hudayfa. Because Aisha, she was truthful. She had talked about what she had seen. And Hudayfa, he was truthful. He talked about what he had seen. And Hudayfa's got extra knowledge. that he had seen him standing up, urinating standing up, where actually he did not. And this is a general principle, you should learn it all the time. He who negates, he hasn't got the knowledge like the one who what affirms. Affirmation takes precedence over what? Negation. I gave you a good example with Iman. If his father asked me outside, did you see Iman? I don't know his son Iman. I would say to him, no, I didn't see him. Because I didn't know his name is Iman. Even I see him, I didn't know his Iman is Iman. But if he had asked the Imam Sahib, he said, was Iman in the class? He would say to him, yes. So he should not say to me, oh, I'm sorry, you're a liar. No, I'm not a liar, but I didn't know that your son is the one which is in the front, mashallah, in the class. Actually, you're the best, because you're next to me. Fine. Further.
It's obligatory to keep clean of the urine. Ibn Abbas narrated that Prophet ﷺ passed by two graves whose inhabitants were being punished. He said, they're being punished, but they're not being punished for a great matter.
Right. So here, the person needs to make sure that he cleans himself, especially from the urine. Because the urine, some people, they just take it as not as, you know, as serious as the defecation, the excrement. You have to clean as well the urine. And some people just be lazy, just put it in their trousers and that's it. No, that's where the Prophet passed by two graves, and he said these two graves have been punished by something which people consider not to be a big sin. One of them is going to namima, which is a major sin, and the other one, he does not clean himself from the urine. And the hadith, by the way, continues that the Prophet asked for two palm fronds, jaridun nakhl, and he stuck them there in the two graves, and he said, hopefully that this will decrease the punishment in the grave as long as they are fresh. Now this cannot be expanded to us and start putting and planting palm fronds in the graves of our relatives and say that this will decrease the punishment. That's number one, because we don't know if they're being punished or not. Number two, the companions did not do that to any of their graves. Number three, Prophet of Allah, he did not say once these palm fronds is gonna get dry, go and replace it with a new one. He didn't say that. He just did it only once, and that's for that incident, and that's it. So once the green has come dry, there's no other sort of upgrade, extension for that. There's no extension. There's no extension. It's only one incident, and the Prophet of Allah wanted to tell us that these two have been punished in the grave because of something that people consider is nothing. Slandering and ghiba, namima. You know what's namima? Slandering. Number 12.
The person should not hold his private part with his right hand while urinating, nor should he clean it with his right hand. Abu Darda, who narrated the Messenger of Allah said, when one of you urinates, is not to hold his private part with his right hand, and he should also not clean his private part with his right hand.
When Uthman had heard this, he said, since I embraced Islam, I never touched my right to my private part. Number 13.
It's permissible to clean the private part with water, stone, or similar items. However, to use water is best. Anas narrated the Messenger of Allah would go to relieve himself, and I and a young boy would carry a leather water skin of water with a spear, and he would wash his private part with water. Aisha narrated that the Messenger of Allah said, if one of you goes to relieve himself, he should take with him 3 stones and clean himself with them, as those will suffice him. So the Prophet ﷺ was able to take nothing with him and just go to urinate himself, urinate or defecate, and use the stones. But he used to ask somebody to carry with him what? A pouch of water, water skin. So in order to use it, that shows us that the water is the best. Using the water is the best. Can I use stones? Of course, but we're going to see now it's only 3 stones. Or can I use a stone with that 3 sides? We will see that in a minute, inshallah. So we could use stones. You could use others as well. You could use tissues, no problem. Can I use tissues and water? As long as you don't believe that this is a more sunnah or this is the best, you could use it. So for cleaning wise. But do you think that this is better sunnah wise, deen wise? Is not correct. Okay. So you could use both tissues and water. Tissues to remove the big, the big lumps, okay, and then the water for the end at the end. No problem, just for you to do it. But
I would say that uses a lot of tissues. I mean, I'd rather use water in my toilet. That's it. Just toilet, no tissues. It's how we get used to the children. What do you use the children to get used to it? They will, get used to it. So if you get used to them to the tissues, it's very hard to take them away from the tissues. Very hard. So I don't know these people who got these motorbikes. How do they subhanAllah, go home with no headaches? Just the moment he's give us a headache. These people are with it. Allah musta'an. So we say that basically it is no problem to use tissues and water. Okay, but even could use leaves of the trees, anything. But there are two things they can't use: bones and dung. We're going to see that in a minute, inshallah. Number 14.
It's not permissible to use less than 3 stones. Salman al-Farisi said, it was said to him, your Prophet ﷺ teaches you everything, even how to defecate. He replied, certainly he has prohibited us from facing the Qibla while defecating and urinating, from cleaning the private parts of the right hand, from cleaning with less than 3 stones, and from cleaning by using dung or a bone.
Right. So the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us everything, even how to relieve ourselves. He told us not to face the Qibla for urination or defecation, and we know from other hadith even to put our back towards the Qibla, and also not to use our right to clean up with, and not to make a stinja with less than 3 stones. So if you are using tissues, it doesn't matter. It could be one tissue, big one, and you clean everything. But if you're using a stone, then you have to use 3 stones. So what about if the stone it's a big one? It's got more than one side. Do I have to bring, for example, it's a rock. Each one is, mashallah, that size. Do I need to bring 3 rocks? I mean, you're not going to carry it to clean them. You could just yourself clean your backside onto it. Do I need to have 3 rocks? Wallahu a'lam, you don't need to. Because what is meant here is 3 wipes on the stone. So there's small stones, it's not going to be enough except for 1. But if this stone is huge and it's got more than one side, okay, it's a big one, it's no problem to use 3 wipes on that stone, because if you think about it, which I did, I mean, that stone, I could just break it. If it's 1 stone, I could break it into 3. Contact, I could break it into 6 or 7. It's a massive one. So if I said I just had to be 3 rocks, so if I said that there's going to be 3 rocks, and I could just move this rock, I could really divide it into 3 rocks. What's the point? So I could just use it as 1, which is intact, or divide it into 3 by breaking it. It's the same thing. So I'm concerned about 3 wipes in the stone. So if the stone take more than wipe, no problem. So 3 wipes if it's a stone. If it's a tissue, it doesn't mean 3 wipes. That's the minimum. You could go more. If it's a tissue, no. If it's a lever tree, there's no such thing 3. You could have it once, twice, 3 times. But stone has to be what? 3 wipes. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. We go to the following, last one.
It's not allowed to wipe with bones or dung. Jabir radiallahu anhu said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, prohibiting wiping with a bone or dung.
Right. Bone or dung because of 2 things, 2 reasons. Anybody tell me? I said that before a long time ago. We talked about the carrions and what is permissible, not permissible. Huh? Anybody want to tell me why the bones and the dung we're not using to clean ourselves with? Anybody? Huh? Jinn's food. That's number 1. We said they are the food for the jinn. طعام إخوانكم من الجن. Because the jinn comes to the bone and he would say Bismillah, and it turns to chicken Kentucky, you know? Exactly how it was before. Rooster will become rooster for it. With the flavor. Well, there's another one as well, another reason. Anybody from the zoo? Zoom is more people than here. Anybody from the zoo? Nobody was. What is the second reason? I mentioned it before. I remember.
There's one brother from the Zoom, Shaykhana.
Oh, but I can't see now. Just so now. Yes.
Go ahead then, Muhammad.
It says Muhammad Kentucky chicken.
Ustad, is it because of Najasa?
No, it's not because of the najasa. But well done. Well tried.
What's the Arabic word?
Huh?
What's the Arabic word for the second term?
Second Arabic word for what?
For the second term.
He wants you to give him a clue, Sheikh.
Bones and the other one.
Dung.
Dung.
What is it in Arabic?
روث. طيب. The second reason, because there's a hadith in Daraqutni, it says لا يطهر, they don't purify. So they don't purify the dung and the bones. And number two, because they are طعام إخوانكم من الجن, they are the food of your brethren from the jinn. The jinn eats so on those bones, so you're not supposed to use that for cleaning yourself with. Alhamdulillah, by this, alhamdulillah, we finish. And we will leave the pot and the utensils, inshallah, for 2 weeks' time. Our class will be after Isha from now on, because it's going to be early. After 2 weeks in Maghrib, it's going to be very early, 6:30 maybe. Not even going to be one.
It'll be 8:30, 8:15.
Well, in Maghrib.
Yeah, no, sorry, Isha. I'm saying Isha after
I'm talking
Isha.
about Maghrib, yeah. So I'm saying, because Maghrib is early, it's going to be 6:30.
Yeah, okay.
It's very hard to make the class after that. Or we could set the class on a time. So if the Isha is going to be 8:30, so we make the class at 7:30. Is that okay?
Isha, in 2 weeks' time, will be at 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Is it?
According to the masjid's calendar. And Maghrib would be 6:30.
Okay, we do.
So it's 7.
After Isha.
Make it 7.
You said today, Sheikh.
Yes, early. But yes, early. Make it after Isha. Khalas, after Isha. So if it's 8 o'clock, we'll make it after Isha, inshallah. And I think Isha will come a bit earlier as well later on, isn't it? 7:30 will be later on.
Yeah, now this year I think we will, because we have classes now.
8 o'clock is too late, for winter.
But because of classes, we'll go to 7:30.
Inshallah. Yeah. طيب. Jazakumullah khair. Any questions regarding what we have heard? Barakallahu fi.
Question with the tissue. Can you just use tissue on its own? Or
Yes, you can use tissues on his own. And this is just to take the myth out of the minds of some of our brothers, especially when they come from Pakistani area. That you can't use tissues on their own. You could use tissues on their own. When I married my wife, I went to we're going to my sheikh, who was all the time, was teacher of me to get the marriage nikah certificate and to give us the ceremony. And he was doing his PhD in Scotland in religion. So we had to use somebody else. So who was the nearest one? It was a person whom I don't know, but he's coming from the Hanafi, this Imam and Madhab, and he was a Pakistani brother, Sheikh. So he went to him and wanted to make the marriage. So we started, before his marriage, he said, you are becoming a Muslim. And then he started to make sure that my wife, she's going to be a Muslim, proper Muslim. She said, we people, we don't use tissues. We only use water for toilets. I remember those words. So he said, make sure, if you use only tissues, you're not a Muslim. That's not correct, everyone. So the Prophet ﷺ asked Abu Hurairah to bring him anything to these. He said, bring me stones or awnahu, anything likewise, to clean, but don't bring me bones or ba or the dung. Also don't bring them. But the other, anything, so any tissues, as I said, even leaves of the tree. Leaves of the tree. Big leaves, so big massive leaves as well. Could be used if having more than, as long as they are not, as I said, bones or dung. No.
Sheikh, the other question I often get is about incontinence. So people who leak sometimes from the back passage or the front passage.
So what does that? I mean, question would.
Yes. So the question is, at what point are they pure? They can pray.
But incontinence and flatulence as well. Those people, they will call it Ahlul A'dar, people of excuse. Those people of excuse, they've got a special way of making tahara or wudu for the prayer. They could do the following. That they could do tahara at the beginning of the time of the prayer, and that would suffice them to the end of the time, regardless of how much wind they have broken, or how much urine came, or how much excrement came out. It will suffice them to the end of the time. But they have to do their purification within the time, not before that. So you can't before Dhuhr. No, it has to be what? After the time of the Dhuhr. And then will suffice them to the time of the Asr. Or they could do something else. Make what we call it a combination, but it's not a real combination. Delay the Dhuhr to the end of its time. Bring the Asr to the beginning of its time. So let's say Dhuhr, what time does it finish? Let's say it is 4 o'clock. And Asr starts 4 o'clock. So we start praying Dhuhr 3:50. And Asr we pray it 4:05. And then on one wudu, do that. One wudu for both of them. We will call it, that is al-jam' al-suri. That is to combine, but it's not a real combination. You could do that as well. But I believe maybe the first option is better for them. But make sure that you cannot do the wudu or the purification outside of the time of the prayer. You cannot do the wudu for Asr before Asr. Asr has to start, you make wudu. Then after that, you don't have to worry about how much urine comes out, how much excrement comes out, how much wind comes out. It's your Ahlul Adar. Now, anybody else? تفضل يا اخواني. يلا فيصل.
I have a question.
I'm going to second. Prati goes here.
Question for ladies when they change.
Can you use the microphone, please? Question for ladies.
Yeah, when they change the nappies of the children, sometimes they wash it, sometimes just they wipe with the nappy wipes. So do they have to make another wudu after that?
No wudu to be made, regardless whether the male or female touches impurities. Do you understand that? Whether they touch the impurities, which is to do with cleaning the children poo, cleaning the urinal of the children, okay? And the children, of course, we're talking about little children, but touching the awrah, that's the one that, touching the awrah. Touching the awrah of a child, it does not break the wudu. It does not break the wudu. Touching the awrah of yours does not break the wudu, unless it is two things there. Number one, no barrier between you, your hand, and your awrah, or the awrah of somebody else, which is not a child. Number two is with lust. If it's with lust, it will break wudu. But it has to be with lust plus skin to skin touching, not on top of the what? The clothes. If somebody touches private part with lust, but it's got some barrier, it does not break his wudu. Unless, of course, something has been discharged. But if he had touched it, skin to skin, without lust, his scratch, there's something there. إِنَّمَا هُوَ بَضْعَةٌ مِنْكَ. Prophet said to him, to that companion, he's touching his private part. He said, he's part of you. It's like he's touching, he's scratching your hand, your arm. But when you touch it with lust, straight away will break the wudu. So children to be clean by the women, then no problem, inshallah. Okay.
I have another point here, which you said part of
You have to wait, guys. Go on.
part of the body. I've been told that now we study that when we study this hadith, so if this word can be pronounced two ways, either bizatun, or wazatun. One of the meaning, other one is it's dirty, and the other one is part of your body. So some scholars take it as it is dirty.
Bad'atun is this is this is not correct, because the Prophet ﷺ, if he has to make wudu, he would have told him that. He would have left it like this. If he said bad'a, so it's bid'ah, it's a correct word, it's bid'ah. Bid'ah to me is part of you. Bad'a means like it is your private part. But if it is the case, he would have just said, make wudu, and he did not. So we have this hadith of both of them, Talq ibn Habib, and the hadith of the other one, which it says is no problem. It's a problem if you touch your private part. Man massa dhakarahu falyatawadda. This is the hadith. And the hadith Talq said, إِنَّمَا هُوَ بَضْعَةٌ. No problem. Because he was scratching, he was telling, I'm a messenger of Allah, I have to scratch, use it. And that is making sense. But it has to be without a barrier. So if you touch it with a barrier, regardless with lust or no lust, it's not going to be good. Unless you decide
It's
something.
affirmation as opposed to negation.
Yes.
Example.
An example of that we have learned as a principle. Now, fine. Anyway, تفضل يا فيصل.
All right, so Sheikh, you kind of touched upon this, but just to clarify, if someone is using toilet paper and they wipe once, the backside, and everything is gone, it's completely clean.
No problem. Next.
They don't have to do a second and third wipe.
No
like
problem, I said.
Okay.
No problem, Faisal. No problem.
Thanks for clarifying.
Everybody, with all the sisters that didn't the question, if, as I said, I've said it clearly, you want tissue, as long as you have cleaned everything, maybe it's a big, massive tissue wrapped together, and you've removed everything, come on. Don't have to use that except for that one tissue. But I would doubt it, the one tissue would be enough. I'm just saying, imagine it's one tissue that maybe you did not really look. If it's a urination, understandable. You know, the urine, but the extremity needs more wipe, I would say. Fadal Muhammad.
Sheikh, you know, I was told that if you break wind, your wuzu doesn't break. But do you still have to go and do a stanja? And if you break wind in salah, does your salah
that is something we have learned when we were kids. I learned it myself. If somebody breaks wind, you have to make istinja. No. You make istinja only if you urinate or defecate. So if you have broken wind, you don't need to go and make istinja, ikhwan. I used to do that when I was a kid. Did you use it as well? When I used to break wind, I used to go to make istinja and clean myself. Unless you've had eaten dal or lentil and then something came out with it.
SubhanAllah. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh.
دال من عدس يعني دال. Now.
Jazakumullah khairan, Shaykhana. Sister is asking on the chat that it's not on topic, but it's important. She's asking, how do you deal with struggling with doubts about the deen as a young person? What should they do?
Struggling about the deen for a young person, this needs a lecture, Ikhwani, but in general, there's two types of struggling of the deen. It's either the person, he is, mashallah, upon the deen, and he's having waswasa coming to him and telling him things that he can't even speak out about them. That's something which can be dealt with either by this person, he would say, spitting on the left, and he's saying as well, A'udhu bista'adha, amantu billah, qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad. That will take him out. And this is basically, it shows the strength of the iman of this person. The companions came to the Prophet of Allah and told the Messenger of Allah, you know, sometimes there's something that comes to us, we really can't even talk about it. Really came to you? Prophet is like happy. It came to you? Alhamdulillah. This is the proper sign of iman. Khalas, you are a mu'min now. Because the shaitan only comes to you when you are in that stage. But if it is the second part, where this person has doubts about, it's not just waswasa, it's not really whispering, it's doubts about existence of God, doubts of, and he's going to take him to atheism. You know, this thing has to be dealt with properly in the right manner. And I would urge this person, that sister, don't go into websites. Don't just swim into this ocean of internet. And then you will linger to any website. You can't take you away from your deen. These websites are like hooks these days. SubhanAllah, there's internet websites there. A'udhu billah. They put so much doubt into your mind. Later on, you're going to commit, as I said, apostasy. You're going to leave your deen. You're going to be an atheist. You're going to put doubt in your mind. So if you have already taken some of that into you, some of that, I call it garbage, had actually affected you, then you need to come to a clinic, which is the religious clinic, in order to clean you out, because it's going to sink there. It's going to come to you all over. We have to tackle it. We have to properly disinfect it. Wallahi. So we have to come to each point. What do you know about this? So we're going to come to you and give you another point, makes you relax. To give you the right antidote for each point. So that young sister, she has to start now hooking herself for the right people, right sisters, to take her to the right people, right websites, okay? And just to make that sister relax. Every single doubtful matter that you got in your mind, there is a very simple, easy antidote for it, wallahi. But you need to have to sit with the right person who gives you the right dose and the proper medicine. Wallahi, I mean, it's simple. I mean, we as people, human beings with this ability, with this, subhanallah, master perfection, with this precision that our eyes exist here, and our hands are there, and our nose is there. Imagine your mouth is your backside, and your eyes in the front, and every time you're going to eat, you're going to look here, and then you put it back. Look here. Look at the perfection where the eyes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in proportion. Created in proportion. So in this perfection, you say they're coming from just like this, coincidence? With this mobile, which doesn't do like what we do. You know, this camera zoom, nothing compared with the eye zoom, nothing. They will never be able to manufacture a camera with the same zoom of your eyes. No way. It's impossible. Camera, our eyes will zoom out, zoom in. This camera will about 3, 4, 5 times it will get out of zoom. No matter how good it is. Yet we believe that this cannot be coming on its own. As I said to this mobile, by the way, it came through the sand and the wind, you know, through millions of years. This screen traveled by itself, and the chips as it came, and they became a mobile. Crazy person. So if you're a crazy person, they say about me, who is mastering manufacturing this, I came like this, by coincidence. Subhanallah. So that sister, just make you relax. You know that there is inside you something saying to you, there is a mighty God there, supreme. So regardless of those people who make doubts into you, you should think about this in this way. I cannot be coming from nothing. I have to have a manufacturer, the creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have actually cleansed for you some of these doubts, but as I said, it needs treatment if it is the second part, as I said, second type. Do you have any question?
Barakallahu feekum, Shaykhana. Please go ahead, Ishaq.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. The question, is there any hadith related to not like laughing at somebody when they fart?
Yeah, there is a hadith authentic. نهى رسول الله عن الضحك من الضربة. Allah, he prohibited from the person to laugh when the person passes wind. Whether he passes wind himself, because this is what the Qawm Lut used to do. Used to pass wind with each other and laugh, nothing for them. And actually, the people who live in this society here as well, they don't have shame. People go to universities, I've got to university, the students around, subhanAllah, no shame. Subhanallah, you have seen that. No shame. We Muslims have shame. We have modesty. We have shyness. They don't have it. I remember one of the students who just pull his gun like this. We knew they're going to be passing wind now. So he does this. It's like he doesn't want to show us that he's doing it. Yeah, he wants to show us like, khalas. So we go with our ears and our nose, looking at it. Allah al-Musta'an. No shame. Allah al-Musta'an. So Prophet ﷺ, said, if a person passed by you, don't laugh. Pretend that you didn't even hear it. Because that person, he doesn't know how to show his face because he passed wind. He thinks, oh my God, pretend that you didn't even hear it. So it makes it feel comfortable. We started laughing. Wallahi, one day, wallah, in a masjid, I'm not going to say which masjid this is. I was praying, second row I was, on the left-hand side. Next to me, somebody who, some of you know him as well. He was next to me. And I just made ruku'ah. And this person in front of me, he made a big sound into my face. Allah. So the person is next to me, he's like laughing, he's praying. It's big. So it cannot be, for example, ignored. This person stayed in the prayer. He stayed in the prayer. So he was the third rak'ah, third, fourth rak'ah. I'm just waiting now for the rak'ah to finish, to talk to the person. So, and after the prayer finished, he's laughing with me again. This person is next to me. About him. I said, don't laugh. Then I took him, after it's finished, I took him to outside. A room, which we have a room there, took him there. I can believe that you have a problem of flatulence. He said, yes. I knew, because, well, somebody like you, and he knows that this is going to happen, I would really prefer for you to come to the masjid. Because you're going to create, a fitna between the people. So if it is the case, it's too much, don't come to the masjid. And if it is controlled, he said, okay, Jazakallahu khair. And he doesn't need to make wudu because he knows that he could just make the wudu on the time, and it doesn't matter how much he breaks wind or urinate if he's got incontinence or defecate. So that's a good example for you to learn as well from. So this person, he had made a wind. So if somebody made a wind here when we are praying, don't laugh. Give an excuse. Think that maybe he's got the symptoms. So if he thinks, but take him outside, of course, tell him, by the way, brother, you didn't know that you passed wind, because maybe he didn't realize. But tell him. He will tell you, no, brother, I do have a problem. Okay, khair, inshallah. Person like this, we don't want it to come to the masjid because it's not just the sound you're going to be bothering the people with, it's the smell. People are not supposed to bring dirty socks, dirty clothes, smelly clothes. Imagine somebody who's got socks. Sometimes you can't even focus on the prayer. When his socks is opposite to you and you make him prostration. Hey brother, make sure that you're smelling nice. Come to the masjid nice. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Last question, Akhi. Abu Farid. Abu Farid.
Yeah, Sheikh. If you use the toilet, you use the tissue, and then you make wudu and pray. But
I said that again, Abu Farid. You're not really clear.
Sheikh, sorry, I'm driving. I'm in the car.
Be careful, brother. Can I make an accident with driving?
So if you use the toilet and you use the tissue, when you get home in the evening, you find out there's a stain in your trousers, and you already pray. Are you meant to pray? Are you meant to repeat the prayer?
A person who does make istinja is supposed to sprinkle water into his pants. That would take the waswas away from him. So he will not start off just having a tissue and then investigate what is in the tissue, take it to the lab maybe. We don't want to do that. So you're going to end up, having wudu on all the time as well, which was the last prayer that I prayed. Okay? So I would say to this person, sprinkle water into your pants so that if there's a wetness there, you will not know whether it's water or whether it's from you, and it will cut off this waswas of yours, okay? And ignore it. But if you are now telling me about this and you were sure that there was urine came out, then you have to really do it from the last wudu, all your prayers that you have done. Okay? But if you have waswasa, don't ignore all of that. Subhanakallah bihamdik ashhadu